recently had the shit with certain actors or whatever saying they're not going to voice black characters and shit.
Yeah.
To me, this is stupid and here's the reason why. Is because you got to look at the context. I believe that in order for blackness to be normalized and people to be able to approach black people more and with a great understanding, then black people also have to acknowledge that people should be able to engage with blackness at different levels. And they have to be able to engage with it at a level of being very deep and thoughtful, being, moderate in approach, and then being, friendly and cavalier, and being superficial. And to me, when it comes to something like voicing an animated character, and the character in the show doesn't really explore identity and heritage all that much, then it doesn't fucking matter, because black, like a specific black identity or experience isn't something that's specific to the theme or the character. Because this show was Big Mouth. It's an animated adult cartoon. I mean, I'm sure that, of course, they make edgy jokes and shit, but it's like, it's not a serious work of art, that's going to be conveying, information that's really going to shift people's minds. So I'm like, who gives a fuck?
Well, it's not like it's the Boondocks.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like some people are falling for these bullshit arguments and really just having really superficial understandings of these issues, where just like you said, they don't know how to tell the difference between the Boondocks and Big Mouth.
Yeah, it was one of those things too, where it's like much like I told you the other day, whereas these voice actors voice sometimes 5 characters on a single show.
Yeah,
that's the point of voice acting.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this, and let me know if I'm wrong on this too, because I actually do want to ask you, because you said you're from like inner city area. Like, you're from a predominantly black area, correct?
Black and Latin. It's not the inner city. Our area was like a little more suburban-ish, but that was the demographics were like black and Latin.
Okay, so this one I want to ask, because I got into not a question, but just like a conversation with someone about this the other day. Is that much like with Jordan Peele's Us, which was fantastic. I love Jordan Peele's death. But it's one of those things to where with Jesse Smollett, all this stuff, with black actors, black film, black cinema, is that I remember when I took acting classes in high school, there was maybe 1 or 2 black kids in my class, maybe 5 black kids out of 50 in the local theater camps I went to, maybe had 1 black person at all. So when a lot of people talk about how there's not a lot of like black actors or whatever, it starts when you're a kid, when you're in high school, because much like, if you're trying to be a badass, you got picked on for being a theater kid, that wasn't a popular thing to do. So it goes to where you come from in your high school, was there a big art field? Was there a big theater program for people, especially of color?
No, it was just kind of like a general high school. It was just notable for pulling in people from across the district. So it was more so just having a diverse class of people as opposed to having like any specific good programs. And like in college, the only college I went to was a community college for psychology.
G-Tech. What I'm trying to ask is that I don't really see a lot of opportunities or a lot of outreach for people of color in the arts and theater or in acting.
So this is a multifaceted issue. So it's a lot of layers to it, right?
So that makes sense what I'm trying to ask.
No, absolutely. And the answer to that is, one thing is that funding for schools is tied in part to the value of the property around the area, or basically the property taxes that are paid, in other words, and then also like the testing that's done on the students. Well, the thing is, if you already live in a neighborhood where the jobs have been gone, people are on drugs, there's a lot of violence, a lot of trauma, and lack of access to resources and shit, then how are you supposed to, and you want to do those things, then yeah, you're already at a loss in that respect, right? And then let's say that you do happen to beat the odds and are able to level up and go and participate in these things, and you say that, like, okay, I'm the best maybe in my block, or I'm the best in my school or my district and shit, and then you have to go up against motherfuckers from like the tri-state area, or from the county, or from the country, or the whole fucking coast that you happen to be on. So then you realize that you're even at a even more disadvantage because some of these people have literally had access to personal trainers, keeping their diets together. They didn't have to research this shit themselves. They didn't have to go to work while at school at the same time while helping out their parents, their family. So they were able to just really focus on developing their shit. So, and these are things that have become more mainstream in the conversation of talking about how people aren't able to reach their best potential. Because it's easy to sit back and be like, well, if you have free time, you should be able to blah, 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 blah. And, but then it's like when you dig down and figure out, well, a lot of people don't have free time, even teenagers, because they are either pushed through a system to operate as consumers, or they're pushed in a system to just operate as a replaceable part. Even if they're a irreplaceable part that's operating at a high level, like an Olympic athlete, you're still replaceable.
Well, that's also like, we're talking about the black voice actors. It's like that. I don't think I think the intent was good, but that's not where it needs to be started. I think what needs to happen is that the arts need to be put back into like inner city schools, these local areas, to where like, to me it's kind of like, especially if you go to one of these low-income schools, acting isn't cool. Doing something progressive like that is not cool. It was like, because I remember when I went to high school, I was like, you're a theater? Like, I'm not fucking doing that shit. Now I really wish I did because I love film. Like, that's my major, and I didn't realize how much it'll play an important role to me today.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where it's like, I look at kids that freestyle, freestyle rap, and it's one of those things like, dude, you can come up with that stuff off the top of your head. What could you do in improv acting?
Yeah.
Where could you take this talent you have, your mind into a different direction, into a different aspect of improv, And I understand why people feel the need about the black voice actors. I don't agree with it, but I think, dude, if these celebrities, if these people really want to be as woke as they claim, fucking get theater back into schools, like literally defund the police and put arts and like acting.
Well, think about how long it's taken to get these conversations up. It's like just because these things are big now doesn't mean these things that are now starting to get discussed out in the public and shit have been discussed amongst various groups for decades, and they've been things that have been pushed for to different degrees. So it's like when you say like, okay, like, yeah, well, it's like, why don't you just do this? Why don't you do that? It's like motherfuckers have tried and they found themselves going against a huge machine that is incentivized to keep things running along and to getting rid of any sort of disruption to their system.
Well, that's also like, from working in haunted houses. It is a form of acting. It may not be the best acting, but it's a form of acting. And working in haunted houses, I've seen everyone come through there. I've seen everyone who is drugged out. I've seen projects, come in there. And it's one of those things to where, like, I don't know what the fuck that humming thing is too, as I hear it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where it's like, these kids come in here and they do, this acting thing. And you can tell they've never done it before, but like they love it. And it's the people you won't expect. It's the dude who's like, who does Molly and addicted to heroin at like 18, but he's just but like, it's a joke, but at the same time, like, I've seen it. You know, it's very much true. And then there's like the kid from the projects, dude, like who hangs out with gangbangers, who's very good at that. And it's more so, it's like I said, dude, this is where like my goal as a filmmaker is the reason why I go into Native American culture with folklore is identify with that stuff more. I love the culture of it there. I love the stories. But I also want to use non-white people. And that doesn't mean like, take all white people out of the program.
Yeah, no, of course not.
Say you love horror movies. Give you something else to look at. Jordan Peele's Us was very good to see. They had a white family and a black family, but it was very refreshing to see a different thing to the eye. It was definitely it was different to see. Much like one of my favorite movies is Candyman, as you know, takes place in the projects of Chicago. And that's why I feel like if these people really want to change Hollywood or change how acting is, to give black people more of a chance, you can't just tell because there's not a lot of black actors anyways.
Right.
That's why you need to start and be like, we're going to fund programs and get these kids, you know, do like what Snoop Dogg did with the football players in high school, shit like that.
Yeah.
But,
No, no, absolutely. And the thing is that, like, you're not wrong. And once again, the thing is that tons of people have tried these things. And what happens oftentimes is, you know, because these celebrities are not qualified, nor do they have the time to actually operate these foundations themselves. It's like, you know, they just help promote and keep the name up and get money for them, get donations and shit. But then all too often you hear about, oh, the director of this nonprofit ran off with the money, or they spent it all on fucking toaster strudel, or they, you know what I'm saying, they was just out banging prostitutes and hanging out with their fucking grandparents and shit and buying them, you know, bullshit. It's like, you know, it's like we can make up all the rules and all the foundations and all the different, you know, things, but it's like ultimately it's about the people who have the power, who have the access. You know, one of my friends, we were talking about how certain celebrities come up, and we were talking about a very famous black celebrity. And basically we were talking about how this is an individual they've made a lot of money, they have a big name, they are still relevant, and they have a reputation for going outside the box and working outside the mainstream. But the common point of criticism that we had was they were like, okay, this individual also likes to complain and point out the contradictions of the mainstream and the system and shit, but they haven't really seemed to put any effort to creating their own infrastructure outside of it. They still operate within the mainstream and then just have the same, you know, complaints about it. Because while there are people who are putting their best foot forward trying to do this shit and they get hemmed up by all these other hurdles, there are also some people whom bitch about these things, but then also don't move an inch forward and actually trying to change them.
yes.
And that shit is really frustrating because it's like, dude, you're in a position where you can affect, even if it's only 10 people, 10 families or something, you know, saying that's impactful, that's important. Take for every inch that you can. You know, so yes, no, I absolutely agree. I get what you're saying, that there are some motherfuckers whom really aren't trying. They're trying too much to people please within the system in which they made it and not remembering why they were so opposed to it in the first place, or understanding the ways in which the system is still failing and you have to go around it to get certain things done.